Okay guys, let's make a scatter plot in Excel. So the first thing that we're going to do is highlight all the data from one level of independent variable and put all those trials into one graph. One thing that I did in class that I'm not going to do this time is I'm not going to highlight this top label for the carbon dioxide concentration because it messed up my x-axis scale. I think Excel doesn't know what to do with this header. So that it like defaulted automatically to being like 10, 20, 30, 40. And even though it was graphing all the data, my scale was like 60, 70, like it looked like it was graphing it in minutes, which doesn't really make sense. So, and I didn't notice that till later. So I'm just going to highlight this stuff. So you need to double check. If you started graphs in class and your scale is like 10, 20, 30, rather than being your x-axis scale, rather than going all the way up to like 700, something's wrong and that needs to be fixed. And this is how I was able to fix it, was to not highlight that top header. So I've highlighted all my data, and then now I'm going to go to Insert, Chart. Excel calls them charts, not graphs. And then I'm just gonna, mine has a bunch of pictures. I want a scatter plot. So I'm gonna pick this one, and I'm gonna pick the most basic scatter plot, and then it's gonna graph my data. So now I'm just gonna make it bigger, and then we'll work on, whoops, editing some stuff, right? So now that it's nice and big, notice also this time it named them trials, and whereas in class it wasn't doing that, right? It was using that carbon dioxide concentration header that I had. So now my legend is a lot better. But we still have a lot of things to work on. So what you need to find on your version of Excel is this chart element thing. So for me, it's under chart design and then add chart element. It's this little green plus symbol that you're looking for. I know that's different on every computer. So on my desktop at the school, I actually have like that green plus like right off to the side of my graph if I was to click on my graph. Like my whole graph is highlighted right now, so it would have just shown up there. But again, it's going to be in a different place for probably each version of Excel, and I'm using the downloaded version on a Mac laptop. So I think that would be good information to know. Okay, so I'm going to click Add Chart Element, and you can see there's a bunch of options here. So one of the options I want, first of all, is to get rid of my chart title, because I'm going to put my title in Microsoft Word under my graph, and so I don't need a title here. So I am going to go to chart title, and then I'm going to take it off. So just go to none. The next thing I'm going to do is add in axis labels. So notice I don't have my x-axis or y-axis or x-axis labeled, and I need to add those in. Sometimes it does take the labels with me, but this time it did not. I know on my desktop school version, it takes my labels for me, but unfortunately this time it did not. Okay, so under chart element again, I'm going to go to axis titles, and then this allows me to add them in. So we'll add in our x-axis title first. So see how it gives me a title there now, and then I can click in it and then edit it. So I'm just going to type in title, 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 title. You'll type in your actual title with units if necessary. And then over here, I can change a bunch of things if I wanted to. You could fill that in. I don't really want to fill it in, but I'll show you what that would look like. Let me undo that. You could add a border if you wanted to, which would just put like a box around it and change the color and things like that, if for some reason you thought that was helpful. So there's definitely options. You could change the color of the font. If I didn't want it to be in black, I could say I'm going to put my x-axis label in red. I mean, I want it in black, but just FYI. So those are some of the things that you could change. Okay, going back to add chart element. Next, I'm going to go to axis titles again, and I need to add my y-axis title. So again, now that it's there, I can edit it. So this version makes me like delete all this right before I can do anything, and then type it in. If I had units or uncertainty, I would type all that good stuff there as well. So there's that one, and you would just edit it the same way I showed you before. The next thing we're going to do is take a look at our scale, because if you wanted to change this scale, you could. And changing the y-axis scale in this case really stretches out the lines, because notice how a lot of these lines are on top of each other. And sometimes your data can be worse than this with your lines really on top of each other. So it does make it harder to read when they are on top of each other. So I'm going to actually open up my scale a little bit differently. And you can adjust it here as well on the x-axis, although it's not quite as important for this lab, but I will show you how to do that. So I'm going to go to, let's see. So I just clicked on it. I just clicked on my scale, and then the format access part was already there. So then I just, I went to access options, because that's how I can change my minimum and my maximum. So before I make any changes, I just want to kind of look at my minimum and my maximum by looking at the actual data. So here's like my minimums, my smallest numbers, and trial 5 has the smallest starting point. So I'm going to change that number to be closer to that. I'm still going to pick a nice round number. I'm just not going to make it 0, because nothing's happening from 0 to, you know, the 1600s, and that doesn't, 0 doesn't mean anything in this lab. So I don't need to have that there. So I'll change that. Let's check out our max number down here. So all my numbers are, so this is my biggest number. So it's under 12,000. So let's see what our scale goes all the way to 14,000, so we can change that. Okay, so we'll just click it, click our, there we go, and then let's see, where were we? Okay, so I am under axis options, and then I clicked on the little like bars right here, and that's what gives me the capabilities of changing these numbers. So I'm gonna change, let's see, this, my min, to 1600, and I'm gonna change my max to 12,000, and then let's see what that does. So it did, like, it stretched out my lines a bit, so that's good. So you can see that. So you can kind of play around with that and see, you know, what you like best. But sometimes, again, it's really nice to stretch out those lines like that to make the graph more readable to the moderator. And then you would do the same thing down here if you wanted to. I don't really think we need to for this particular graph, but if you wanted to, you could change the max as well. That's up to you. Like, let's say I wanted to change this to 610, then I could, right? And it would like shift everything kind of over like that. Kind of made things kind of funky over here. I don't know why it would do that. I'm gonna put it back. So it's fine, because we don't need it stretched out horizontally. We just needed it stretched out vertically to adjust for that. Okay, next, if I wanted to change these labels, like trial 1, trial 2, trial 3, so I don't, but if I did, then I could click on the legend. Oh, also you can move the legend around. Like, let's say I would rather have my legend on the right. I can move it over there. If I want it on the top, I can move it up there. So you can move it anywhere that you want it. I'm going to leave it down here for now. So that's like a personal preference for you guys. Okay, so if you click it, and then I think you go up, I have select data up here. But again, sometimes you guys can do things with right clicking. I'm not sure, but when you select the data, then it lets you edit the name. So right here, I have it named as trial 1. Let's see, I think this, I'm pretty sure this is where I label it. Let's see if it changed. Okay, so it did change because see how now it's like lowercase, right? So that's how you change it. So again, I went to select data, and then I picked which trial I wanted to rename. I renamed the first one. You could rename any of them here, and then you change it here. Okay, so trial, I just put this one in all caps so you could see. And see, it changed it down there. Other than that, this is where you would change the color of the font there, whatever you wanted to do. If you wanted to box it in, maybe that's not that. I think if you wanted to box it in, you'd go to, no, maybe you can't box in the legend. I'm not sure. Oh, here, border. I'm in legend options, and I'm in this little paint bucket. And then you could add a border if you wanted. Like here, I'll add one just so you can see what I mean. We'll go solid line, and I'm gonna make it black. I'm gonna make it thick, and then see, I did that. And again, it can be moved, right, to different positions. You can also move it from here. So on add chart element, when I go to legend, I can move it like that. So there's that option. And then next we'll look at adding a trend line. So to add a trend line, again, we're going to be in this add chart element, and then I'm going to go to trend line, and I'm just going to add a linear trend line. And I get to pick which trial I want to add a trend line to, so we'll start with trial 1. So now trial 1, which is this dark blue line, has a trend line. And then I'm going to click on the trend line. So make sure you're on the trend line and not on the data points. I'll show you the difference. I'm on the trend line this time. You can see it shows like the end caps highlighted only. If I was on the data, it looks like that. So it like highlights all the data, but I want the trend line. Okay, so there's my trend line. And then next I'm gonna go, so I'm in format trend line. For me, this box just automatically pops up. So I hope it's that easy for you guys, but if not, you need to find where your format trend line is. Try right clicking, or see what pops up on the side. Maybe one of those has it. And then this is where I can change a lot of things about my trend line. So if I wanted to change colors or the thickness of the trend line, I would do that here. Let's see. I don't ever do anything in that, but this one is important. So right here, you need to go to these little bars. And I had already picked linear, but I could change it here if I wanted to, which I don't. And then let's see. I need to display the equation on the graph. So I do that in this as well by clicking. Sorry, my microphone came unplugged. I do that here by clicking display equation on the chart, and then also by display R squared value. And so those things popped up here. Notice they did pop up in kind of an awkward spot. So I can move all that and I can fix all that. So then I'm gonna take this and move it. And it's best if you like do everything you want to do for each trend line one at a time. because otherwise you might mix up which equation goes to which line because they kind of pop up all on top of each other. So I'm going to wrap up everything I want to do for the trend line for trial 1 first before I move on to anything for trend line for trial 2 and so on. And so one thing I want to do is maybe, so notice there's no there's no box around it. And a lot of times students will add a box around it and color that box to match the trend line. And I think that's a good way to make sure the moderator knows which equation goes to which line. So I can do that so click on it, and then you go to, okay, not this, but in this you can do things too. You can, I could change the color of the font if I wanted. So right now, I think that's where you change. Actually, this is where you change it. So right now my font is black, and if I wanted it to be blue, like the line, then I could pick blue, right? But the problem is that some of these are really light colors, like yellow's very light. So putting a yellow font on it is kind of hard to read sometimes, but you could change the color of the yellow line, and I can show you how to do that in a second too. The other thing I could do is add a text outline. Actually, I'm not sure that might not be right. Let me see. Oh no, that's not what I want. Let's see. Okay, it's under this. So I'm not sure where I was before, but now I think I was under text. Yeah, I was under text options before, but now if I go under label options and go to the paint bucket, then the paint bucket allows me to change the actual box. Okay, so if I wanted to fill the box up, which I don't, but if I did, I could fill the box up. So it's yellow. I don't want to do that, but if I did, that's how I would do it. But here, I do want to add a border. So I can change that to a solid line and change the color to match my line. So dark blue, and I could change the thickness too. So like if that was too light to read, I could make that line thicker. So let's see what we're working with now. So there. So now I know that my trial 1 is dark blue and all of this matches, so therefore this belongs to trial 1. And then let's add our next trend line. So let's do this one. You click on the data first, and then, click on the data first, and then again go to add chart element, trend line, linear, there it is. And then I do all the same things. So again, whoops. Sometimes it's hard to perfectly click. Okay, I'm on the trend line now, and I want to be here, and then it's linear, leave that, but go down and display the equation, display R squared value. And then once again, I can move it and reformat it. So you can follow all the same instructions to reformat it. Another thing I want to show you is, let's see, changing these markers, right? So that might be something you want to do. Sometimes students don't like the dots, or they don't like the color and they want to change the color of the marker. These little dots are called markers. And so you want to click on your marker. So I'm on my markers now. And then go to, okay, so this format data series, the paint bucket, and then click on marker. And there's a lot of things you can do here with the marker. So one thing I can do is change the color. So let's say I'm like, I don't like orange. Or see how there's two blue lines? Sometimes light blue versus dark blue is difficult to distinguish between, or maybe yellow's too light, you don't want to use yellow, but I can change the marker to whatever color I want to right here. If you change the marker, you'll have to go back and change the trend line color as well, which let's do that so you can see. So I'm going to I changed the marker to green, notice that my marker itself is colored in green, but the border is orange, so you need to change that too. Or you could say no border. I can also change the size of the border here, the thickness, things like that. And then if you go to this one, marker options, there's more options here as well. I can change the size and the shape. So it automatically defaults to this circle and at this size, but if I wanted to change that, then I'd go to built-in, and this is where I have options to make changes here. So right now I can change the shape. I'm on circle, I can put it on whatever I want. So if I wanted diamonds, it changes all my marker shapes to diamonds. So it's kind of hard to see, but let's make them bigger so you can see them better. Well, that's overly large. There you go. So if I click off of it, you can see I've changed them all to diamonds. So this is actually a pretty big advantage if like your teacher asked you to print the lab, like if we were in the classroom and you needed to turn in a printed copy. A lot of times when students are going to print in black and white, then they'll change the shape of the marker because the grayscale between the different colors is hard to tell the difference between. So that's an option. Or sometimes students just think it's easier to tell the difference if you change the marker shape, right? And you have so many options. So like I could change the yellow series, right? So if I wanted to change the yellow series, I'd go to marker, marker options, and let's see what my options are. Built-in, so maybe we'll do X's this time. So there we go. I could make them bigger if I wanted. Kind of makes it stand out a little more. So then look, I have X's now, and it changes it automatically in the legend as well. So let's go back now and change this trend line color. So click on just the trend line, and currently it's orange. It's kind of weird to have an orange trend line with green dots, so I'm going to change it to green. I mean, I suppose you could change it to black and do all black trend lines if you want, but like that. I think I would just make it match the marker, but it's your graph, so it's kind of up to you guys what you want to do, but that's how you change that. Okay, and then another thing is that I don't need to have a legend that includes the trial and the trend line trial, like that's not needed. So I'm going to go in and delete all my trend line labels in my legend. I actually already deleted one off camera, and so how I did that was I clicked it, double clicked just that, and then I just deleted it. I just hit delete on my computer, and now it's gone because I only need like trial 1, trial 2, trial 3, trial 4, trial 5. And that's it for making a scatter plot. So let me know if you have any questions.